Do not adjust your radios. You haven't found us by accident. I'm the listener, and welcome to the sound of fear. Tonight, we'd like to ask our audience, what is your most frightening time in the dark? Our phone lines are lighting up. Good. It was getting dark in here. Rich, you're on the sound of fear.
Hey listener, I've got a story you're not going to believe.
Try me.
I grew up in a tiny truck stop town. One of those places where travelers drive through wondering, who the hell lives here?
I know those places. I love those places. So many secrets.
Exactly. Secrets. My hometown had a lot of those. This is one of them.
The airwaves are yours, Rich. And I'm listening.
Me and my friends were 10 years old at the time. It was Easter vacation, so we had a lot of free time on our hands. Too much. Back then it was normal to leave the house at 9 a.m. and be home by the time the streetlights came on. Can you believe that? My parents had no idea what I was up to for 8, 9 hours a day. Anyway, different times. So there was 5 of us looking for something to do, so we wandered to our usual hangout spot, a storm drain behind the hill near our houses. It's a big stone wash with 8 feet hole that leads into the sewer. Had a massive grate over the top to catch the trash and probably keep nosy kids out. We got there and we did what we do. Told stories, played tag, and threw glass bottles into the drain to listen to the echo. Eventually I got the idea, let's open it. My buddies thought it was the best idea they'd ever heard. We went to work. What we learned is that grates are really heavy, and they operate on a hinge. We pulled till we were blue in the face, but we only got it to budge an inch or so. That's when Robbie suggested we should build a lever. We sat there silently, in awe of the genius before us. The moment passed and we got to work. We found the longest and strongest branch we could, then a big rock to use as a fulcrum. We wedged one end of the stick under the grate, and on the other side, we sat on the stick with all our weight combined. Sure enough, our makeshift seesaw hoisted up the grate. We were so impressed with ourselves. We figured we were the smartest boys alive. Later, I realized we were dangerously smart. Smart enough to get into trouble, but not smart enough to get out of it. It didn't take long for one of us to suggest going into the sewer. I think it was Arthur that did. Robbie hated the idea. He was wearing his brand new white Air Jordans and didn't want to get them dirty. We all teased him. Eventually he gave in. We needed his brains if we were going to get this grate to stay open. The trick was to find weight to replace us sitting on the lever. We looked for an hour for something heavy enough but found nothing. Then, just before we gave up, Robbie finds a pile of sandbags in one of the culverts. Damn sandbags. I wish we never found them. We went to work unloading the cheap plastic sandbags over the lever, and slowly but surely the grate came up about a foot. Just enough for us to wedge under. We were pumped. We felt like Indiana Jones going into the Forbidden Temple. We each carefully snuck under the grate, and just like that, the 5 of us were in the sewer. It was dark, almost no light, and we were all immediately afraid. We didn't want to show it. I dared Mike to take 10 steps in, but he refused. Then Arthur said he was bored and wanted to leave. He turned toward the grate and screamed. The gate had shut. We all pushed and shoved, but we couldn't budge it. That's when we saw what happened. A couple of the sandbags had holes in it, and they slowly drained. So slow, we couldn't hear the gate closing. I won't say who, but a couple of the kids started to cry. We screamed for help, but after 15 minutes, we knew it was pointless. That's when Mike made the suggestion none of us wanted to hear. Let's find another way out. We were scared to death, but we knew it was the only option at this point. We grabbed rocks and sticks for weapons, and crept into the darkness. We heard the creepy, echoey drip of water, and saw small shadows moving through the dark. Some were rats, some were bigger. We made our way to the fork that split into 3 directions. They could lead anywhere, and we were not about to split up. So we screamed for help down each of the porthole and waited to hear something back. But all we heard were drips and the creepy, crawly creatures. Then, all of a sudden, a voice. You kids need help? Oh my God, the relief we felt. We were saved. We told him we got locked into the sewer, and he told us to follow his voice. He was by a storm drain off of Main Street. He could open the grate there. Awesome, we thought. He kept talking to us so we could find our way out. We made lefts and rights, and his voice kept getting louder, so we knew we were going the right way. But as we got closer, something didn't feel right. Something in his voice was becoming more and more clear. Not sure if I could put it into words, but I got the sense that he wasn't there to help us. A wolf in sheep's clothing, if that makes sense. To keep the conversation going, he'd ask things like, "How old are you boys? How many of you are there? Are your parents looking for you?" I stopped the group and I told them we should find another way out. Arthur and Mike agreed. They were getting a weird vibe from the helpful man too. Robbie wasn't having any of it though. It was not up for debate for him. He just kept walking and talking to the man. We tried to stop him, but he was so scared of the dark, he didn't want to be down there for 1 second longer. So we ran off into the sewer, following the man's voice. The four of us sat and waited for a second and listened to Robbie's footsteps get further and further away. That's when an air horn blasted our ears. We knew that sound. It was a trucker blowing his horn. We knew where we were. We were under the main street, and Main Street was lined with street drainage. We followed the blasting big rig and eventually saw daylight. We boosted each other up and through the curb drain and onto the busy street above. We were so happy to be out of there that we kissed the damn asphalt. That's when Mike spotted a storm drain across the street. It was tucked away behind a dirt lot where truckers would park their big rigs. We ran over to find Robbie, but just then, a giant big rig was tearing out of the parking lot. But when we got to the drain and called for Robbie, there was no sign of him. Then we watched that big rig that almost ran us over drive onto the freeway. That's when Arthur found something near the storm drain. Brand new Air Jordan shoe. Still don't know what happened to Robbie. Probably never will.